Stand by.
I'll talk to you after.
And 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday, September 27th, 2022 meeting of the Long Meadow School Committee. School committees and other public bodies may continue to hold remote meetings through March 31st, 2023 under new legislation enacted in July of 2022. The statute, Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022, extend quorum reductions for remote meetings. All votes, while there is remote participation, must be made by roll call vote. This meeting is being recorded and aired live on LCTV. We will begin tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will turn things over to our clerk.
We did not have any correspondence.
Thank you very much. We now have approval of minutes, and I'll entertain a motion.
I move that the school committee approve the minutes to the September 13th, 2022 school committee meeting as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, yep. Jana?
Diane, do I need to mention Chris's name?
There'll be a correction on one of the names.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Any further discussion? Then we will move to a vote. Zach?
Yes.
Gianna?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
And Jamie is not here yet? Okay. And yes for me as well. Thank you. All right. School committee announcements and recognitions. I open the floor for any school committee members to make an announcement. Mary?
I have a few things. First, I have a child at each of the levels, so I've gone to a lot of open houses recently. I have been to the elementary and to the middle and to the high school, and they were just so well done. And just the spirit of normalcy and excitement that the teachers seem to have with a much more traditional opening to our school year. Everyone was warm and welcoming, and it was a really positive experience for families to be in the classrooms and to meet the teachers. And so I just want to shout that out. The other thing I'd like to mention is the Center School Carnival took place last week. I have a 5th grader, so I've attended this in the past, but I have not been, because my daughter who went through the school, she was the year that it was canceled, the 2020 year, so I just haven't had my own kid make the project and be part of it all. It's a lot of work on the family's part too. However, I think about our efforts with STEAM and having kids do sort of these project-based learning activities and all of the skills that it takes to be able to pull something off that works. And you have to agree with the other 10-year-olds in your group. And then you get to be this leader for the younger classmen who come and they line up and they get the tickets and you explain the rules. And it's just all of these different skills that we want our kids to have. And in past years, I really haven't observed it in that way, but to see my own child be so excited about this and to recognize all the work that goes into that behind the scenes was wonderful. And I'd also like to shout out the PTO, who does so much work to put this together. It was a great event. It was a beautiful night, but got really cold, but it was a great event.
Thank you very much. I'll add, as a parent of a high schooler, that it is extra fun that then they sometimes get to go back and participate in that when they're in high school. So thanks to the Key Club also for sending over some volunteers. My own daughter, who had her booth in the 5th grade, surrounded face painting, and then got to go back and paint some faces again, this time as a 10th grader. So it's a nice continuation of the theme. All right. Any other comments or notes? Julie?
Well, I just wanted to add, Mary talked about basically the same things. We have a child in the same grade, but just want to give a shout out to the teachers for describing the math curriculum. The new math curriculum was really cool to see during the open house. They seem really excited about it. They talked about how it was working for the kids, and it was, I think, the first time. I mean, obviously we've talked about it here, but the first time we were hearing it explained from the perspective of a teacher and how it's working with the students, and that was really awesome.
Awesome. Thank you. Any others? Zach?
I'd just like to hold up an event that's happening in our community in the next month or so at this moment in time when we're all prioritizing mental health and social emotional learning. There is a Greater Springfield Out of the Darkness walk, a walk to fight suicide and raise awareness in our community. That's happening on Saturday, October 22nd at School Street Park in Agawam. If you have the opportunity to share that with friends and family or hold that up for others that are interested in raising awareness, I think it is an important event and opportunity for where we are at this moment in time.
All right, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Appreciate it. And any other school committee announcements or recognitions? All right, wonderful. We are moving forward on to business with guests. There are none tonight, so we will head into administrative reports. Excellent timing. And turn things over to our superintendent, Dr. O'Shea.
Thank you. Handful of items. I'll go through them quickly for you. Started this morning with Principals Beth Nelson and Nicole Allen. We had an opportunity to visit a new school in East Hampton, Mass. It's a K-8 school called Mountain View School, and they recently opened it, and it was the result of combining 3 elementary schools and a middle school. So it was a really ambitious project, but the point of it is it really gave Beth and Nicole and I an opportunity to envision what is possible in 21st century middle school learning spaces. It was really fascinating. Thanks to Superintendent Allison LeClaire for hosting us and giving us a great tour. The lighting, the furniture, fixtures, and equipment, the integration of special education spaces into the building, the safety features of the building. It really had lots of light bulbs going off over our heads as we toured the building. So it was a great way to spend a morning. Beautiful ride up to East Hampton. A few other items. Our program of studies review remains on track. Mr. Don Badette was here today. He is spearheading the NESDEC review that has been underway for some time now. He met with groups of students, parents, and teachers, and that sort of completes his information gathering, and he'll be in the process of putting together a report for us. We expect to have that in late October or early November, so we're right on track there. Thanks to the Facilities Department for coordinating the installation of rubberized matting at our elementary schools, Blueberry and Wolf Swamp. The matting is in place. Center School will be in place by early October, we expect. But it's a great step forward in terms of making our playgrounds accessible, and there's some additional work that we'll do as well. I think we talked about it a little bit at your last meeting. Mcas results will be released by the state on Thursday at noon. We've already had an opportunity to look at embargoed results, and Sue has done some preliminary pass-throughs, so we'll continue to dive into MCAS reports and accountability reports. Thanks to AD Mike Capitasto for inviting me to visit with the LHS captains. He has resurrected a captain's council. It's something he put together a couple of years before COVID appeared, and it's a great opportunity for us to tap into our athletic captains as school leaders, and a way to promote sportsmanship and fair play, and get some important messages out to our very active student athletes. On Thursday, we're meeting with representatives of the Long Meadow Education Association to continue our work towards looking at time on learning requirements and developing elementary schedules that provide opportunities for educator collaboration and sufficient preparation time. So that is ongoing. And on Friday, I'll be taking a day trip up to Northampton to attend the fall conference of the New England Association of School Superintendents. There's a few exciting keynote speakers that they have lined up, one of which is a DEI director from Situate, Massachusetts, and another who will speak on some larger policy issues. So looking forward to that event on Friday, and that's all I have. If you have any questions, happy to answer.
Any questions for Dr. O'Shea? Gianna?
Thanks, Superintendent. The Captain's Council,
Yep,
so it just kind of started back up.
yep.
Is there like integration and vision of the graduate in that, like in those conversations, or plans to do that?
Yeah, we sort of were brainstorming some ideas with Mr. Capitasto on some of the leadership development opportunities and some of the ways that we can work with the Captain's Council to get the word out. So, but the vision of the graduate would certainly be a good opportunity to embed that further in the Captain's Council.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? All right, we will move on to Assistant Superintendent reports. I do not see any here. No? All right. Chair report. I'm going to start just by saying a big thank you to everyone who was able to participate in our annual school committee administrative retreat today. We were able to begin our retreat with some individual tours of the 6 buildings and got a chance to see each of the buildings and talk with the administrative team in that building. So a big thank you to the administrators for taking us through their buildings and spending some time sitting with us afterwards to discuss. And thank you to all of our committee members for participating in those walkthroughs, and hopefully get a chance to do more things like that as we keep moving forward. A couple of other quick updates. We talked at the last meeting about the upcoming Mass Association for School Committee, Mass Association for Superintendents event that is coming up in November, and that we may need a discussion about a voting member. It turns out the vote will be happening on Wednesday of that week, and I'm not able to attend that day, so unless somebody else is going, we can shelve that, and we do not need to arrange for a voting representative. But if anybody else is interested in attending that day, reach out and let me know, and we'll re-bring the discussion back in again. Something else to add to your calendars, please. The Long Meadow High School is going to be going through their NEASC accreditation process this year, and NEASC is scheduled to visit beginning on Sunday, December 4th, and would like to have some time to meet with committee members, if possible, on that day. So if you are available to meet with NEASC on Sunday, December 4th, pencil that in, and we'll have some more information as that gets a little bit closer. A big thank you to all of the staff and families who were able to participate in the open houses over the last few weeks. Some really excellent conversations that came out of that, and a lot of great things for students to be able to show off the work that they've begun, and families to be able to see some of the new initiatives happening at the schools. And finally, a thank you to all of our coaches and staffs for all of the extracurriculars that are up and running and keeping the kids busy and active throughout this autumn. So thank you for all of those things. I think that's all on mine. Anything? All right. Student representative report. Dagan,
Thank you.
take it away.
I'd like to start with athletics at LHS. Last Friday was a full sweep in Long Meadow High School. Girls volleyball won, football won, and boys soccer won as well against Pope Francis. So it was a total sweep. Really awesome. So congratulations to all those athletes. Talking about athletics, the Captain's Council, I'm a proud member of the Captain's Council as a member of the football team as a captain, and it is a really great program. Dr. Shea, I can't wait to see you on Thursday morning, bright and early, to speak to us. It's really good for all of us to collaborate. Each sport has its own culture, its own identity, and that way we're able to share ideas, how we run our teams, what works, what doesn't work, and it makes Long Meadow athletics better as a whole. Again, thank you for the clubs. The clubs are up and running. I'm a proud president of 2 clubs. They're pretty great. Thank you especially to Ms. Kennedy to taking up another club, the librarian at Long Meadow High School. Ms. Kennedy took up the Model UN Club and Model Congress Club that would have died if she had not taken up, so big props to her. And finally, I just want to remind you that the Long Meadow High School Chamber Concert, which is any student who would like to produce anything musical, will be held on Thursday, October 27th at 7 p.m. in the auditorium. I'll be performing, so obviously you want to go. But it's gonna be a great time. A lot of students have been working really hard independently on their music, and they'd like to share it with you all. So thank you much. That's all I have to report at this time.
All right, wonderful. Thank you very much.
Nice job.
We have a few other reports. We'll start with LPVEC. Mary?
Sure. Our meeting in August was canceled, so our meeting in September was very long, so I have a bunch of stuff to tell you. Okay, so first of all, the Unit A members, there is no union. They're not unionized at LPVEC, but they're getting together and in the process of potentially developing a union. And they are currently certifying signatures for professional teaching staff, so that's only their Unit A. I'm excited, Marty, later maybe to hear a little bit more about the coordinator of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We've hired someone, as my understanding. Our board had approved the job description for that person, and so that was announced. I always think this is so interesting. We approved the disposal of 6 vehicles to sell for scrap metal. To me, sometimes it makes it feel like there must be a lot of junked cars around. So we did that. And I guess that does actually yield some cash. So also, we are going to use some reserved funds for a capital project. It has to do with paving and fencing for the Ludlow and Wilbraham garage. And then also notable, we did approve a COVID payment for the teaching staff there and bus staff, year-round staff. And it's very similar to the payment that we made to our teachers that was wrapped up in our negotiations at the end of the school year. The timing was actually similar. We pushed this out, thinking that we would get to this in August, and the August meeting was canceled, and we ended up coming together in September. It was a robust discussion because remember that there are a lot of sending districts, and some districts did agree to COVID payments for their teachers, and then others did not. And so there was a lot of discussion about, well, how does this work? In my role on this committee, I felt that it was reflective of the decisions that our committee has made to vote yes on this, so I did. And it was ultimately approved, and so they will be receiving some COVID payment. The payment is a little bit differentiated, and I thought that they did a nice job of honoring some of the additional work, particularly for the year-round transportation staff. But again, it's a smaller payment overall, but just wanted to acknowledge that. They've gotten off to a great start to the school year also. So, thanks.
All right, wonderful. Questions, comments? We will move on to energy and sustainability.
No report.
No report. And then to SEAL, Gianna.
SEAL, Special Education Alliance of Long Meadow. I'm off my game a little bit, so I can't remember when the next... Kevin, how fast do you think you could pull up sealma.org?
Keep talking.
So their their semester is underway, and again, just some great stuff. Workshops coming up. Tom, do you know when you'll be visiting?
I think I'm in March or April.
Yeah, okay. So.
I think it's March this year.
October 12th.
Okay, October 12th, which is a what, Kevin? Tuesday?
Wednesday.
Goodness
Wednesday.
gracious. You know how to answer that, too.
Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday, okay. At 7 o'clock on Zoom. You always know everything.
Do you want to know the topics?
I should have you do the report. Wait, is it a Wednesday? Did we determine that?
Yeah. Yes.
Wednesday, October 12th at 7 o'clock on Zoom. Go to sealma.org to get the Zoom information and the topics. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Nicole.
Excellent teamwork, folks. Love it. All right, we are going to move on to subcommittee reports. Finance subcommittee does not have a report, but I see us meeting tomorrow.
Correct.
Fantastic. And I don't see any reports for any of our other committees, correct? Yes. Am I correct that we will need to, at some point, approve minutes for...
School building development, yes.
Yes, okay.
We can do that at the next one if you'd like.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I'm sorry, you can do that with the full committee.
Yes, because we're not
That's what I meant,
expecting to have
I'm
another
sorry.
meeting
Okay,
there.
yep.
Okay, perfect. Ongoing business, we're on to middle school project update. Turn it back over to you.
So we have, remain on track to deliver the reports that the MSBA is expecting of us during this eligibility period. The matter before the committee tonight is the school building committee roster. And so by prior agreement of the committee and with acknowledgement and involvement of the select board, there's an opportunity for 2 school committee members to be installed on the school building committee. The other roster spots have been identified, and at your last meeting, you identified 2 community members who were appointed by the school committee into sort of at-large positions. The select board similarly identified 2 community members to serve on the school building committee. Mr. Josh Levine, the chair of the select board, will represent the select board. Lynn Simmons, the town manager, will be a voting member of the committee. I will be a voting member of the committee. And then we'll have a handful of school and town appointed officials who will be sort of ad hoc members of that school building committee as well, and who will be available to the school building committee to ensure that the committee makes informed decisions. But tonight, primarily, we would hope to identify 2 members of this body that could serve on the school building committee. We do have to get the roster to the MSBA by the end of this month. So I'm happy to chat a little bit about the responsibilities, if that would be helpful, or however you want to handle it.
So I have volunteered that I would be happy to take that on as one of the folks. If there's anybody else who has already approached Dr. O'Shea about this, then we can make that happen. And if not, maybe take a minute and remind folks what might be included there and see if we get any takers.
I'll to give you some think time. School building committee, I anticipate that it will start slowly and won't be too labor intensive, but as we get into the thick of the project, if we in fact get into a project more deeply, it could be as much as twice a month that the committee might need to be active. Today, I spoke with the East Hampton superintendent, who said that their building committee was established in 2015, and that school building committee continues to meet on punch list items and some of the landscaping decisions that need to be made in and around that school. So it's a significant commitment. That's not to say that the roster can't be changed. It can be. I think the MSBA understands that people have come and go on town boards, and people move in and out of communities, and so the roster will likely change. I'd be surprised if we could maintain the same folks that are on this list, maintain them in place for the duration of the project. If we could, that would be great. Stability matters. But it has some very specific responsibilities, one of which is to sort of vet the decisions around the scope and the project budget. And so those are responsibilities that are prescribed by MSBA regulations. So I think it's really exciting work. It will involve engaging community members in the visioning process, and it will involve putting together an educational program that we think will be suitable for kids for decades to come. So we're able to identify 2 committee members tonight for the roster. That'd be great.
I know it's a project that many of us have been involved in or been aware of or been excited to look out for as the years have passed. I'm excited and honored to be able to see it beginning and to be a part of that. So why don't we start there? Is there anyone who would like to jump in? / is there anyone who'd like to make a nomination, I guess? We can do both things.
I mean, I would be happy to do it unless I'm looking at your faces and nobody looks like they're like
Not stepping onto
But I also want to open the floor to whoever is dying to do it.
Is there anybody who's dying to jump in?
I'm very interested in the work, but I am wary of the time commitment because I'm just trying to be realistic about how much time in my life I have.
absolutely
So,
fair.
are there opportunities to be, I know there are opportunities to be involved in other ways, but is there opportunity to be involved in a way that is meaningful and significant, but maybe not as significant as what Nicole is suggesting?
Along the way, I anticipate that there'll be obviously plenty of conversation around these tables, and there'll be opportunities for anyone, to community members or yourself as school committee members, to be part of the visioning process and
Community engagement.
to engage the community in the project and make sure that we are communicating clearly and frequently to the wider community. So there'll be plenty of opportunities. If this isn't a good fit, then that's fine. And frankly, if Julie, if you were the committee member that were on the school building committee, if after a year or so it felt like it was more than you could manage, then we can always revisit it. It would be great to have someone involved for the life of the project, but we know that, the roster will likely change over the course of the next 5, 6, 7 years.
But definitely, leading up to the coming town meeting, we're going to be holding events related to community engagement and information, and there will be multiple stops along the way in this project that require community engagement, time, and meetings and forums, and all of those things will be spaces to get involved as well.
And after-school times too, right, Superintendent?
Yeah.
After school time,
And after-school times for the forums?
yes. In evening events, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Probably fall in a similar place as Mary. I'm super interested in the project and very passionate about the potential outcomes and being able to contribute, particularly having been a part of school facility conversations in the past. Though practically speaking, with 4 young kiddos and lots of activities after school and juggling all that entails, the time commitment I feel is it may be a heavier lift than our family can make right now.
Well, we do have a motion with a couple of blank spots for 2 names. If anyone wants to patch that together, they're welcome to do that. You have to put your name in there.
I move that the school committee appoint Julie Morgan and Nicole Chouanier to serve on the school building committee as representatives for the school committee.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? Yes, Jan?
Oh, I
And
just
then
want-
Kevin. Sorry.
Thank you, and
Yeah.
Julie, for, I hear all of us, and I know that we're all, passionate about it and committed, but just thank you. Y'all are awesome, and it's, thank you.
And also,
Thank you.
if it's okay, I would like to say I'm very excited about it. I'm also concerned about the commitment, so I would like to stick with it for the long haul, but would, if it becomes difficult, we'll have to reevaluate after a year or so.
My feeling is that, and we can discuss this, I guess, that much like our committees are formed each year, there would be opportunities to shuffle as needed when we get to the reformation of committees, and or if somebody needs to change something mid-year, just like everything, we'll speak up and address issues as they come up.
Great, I'm excited
Yeah.
for the project.
So I was notified by the town clerk that all of the members of the school building committee will have to go get sworn in.
Correct.
So you'll have to stop by town hall yet again. They will get the list tomorrow, and the town manager will sign off on it, on their letterhead, not ours, and send it off.
All right, wonderful, thank you. Anything further? All right, let's vote. Roll call vote. Zach?
Yes.
Gianna?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Abstain?
Abstain?
Yep. All right. And that's good? Yep. All right, perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much. We look forward to helping out and appreciate
you.
your support. All right, new business. We continue to
Yeah.
throw things your way
Sure.
tonight. Annual plan, take it away.
Sure. If I could, I'll just, so this is the time when educators are establishing their goals for the year, and you as a committee, of course, are taking a look at your goals this year. And so for your consideration is my 22-23 annual plan. And if you'll indulge me, I will just share this with you and anyone who might be watching at home. And if, much of this work is underway, much of the activities outlined in my annual plan are reflective of school committee goals or the district improvement plan and so many of the things that we've talked about. But I would just want to start by saying that my annual plan and the evaluation cycle that I am on mirrors the evaluation cycle that all educators are on, and that involves a period of self-assessment, it involves a period of goal setting, and as educators submit their goals to their principals, so I submit my goals to you as a school committee, and then we work hard on the implementation of that plan, and typically somewhere around January or February, I check in with the school committee on the goals as a part of a mid-cycle review, and then at the end of the year, you engage in a summative evaluation of me as your superintendent. So for your consideration tonight is my annual plan. There are 3 components of a superintendent's annual plan. There's a professional practice goal or goals, student learning goals, and then the district improvement plan. You'll recall that the third bullet on the screen here is the district improvement plan, which in the spring of 21 and in the spring of 22, we gathered feedback from stakeholders to put that district improvement plan together, and it was ultimately approved by the school committee in October of 21. So that third bullet is sort of set as part of my annual plan. And to give you an overview of my professional practice goal and my student learning goal, I've just put together this slide. You'll notice that I carried over the wording of my professional practice goal is carried over from the 21-22 school year. The action steps associated with it are different, but what I tried to do in my annual plan was to explain what my goal was, how I would lead, but I also tried to give you something to sort of measure that against by explaining how I would do it. So in each goal, there is an attempt to say what I will do and the specific action steps associated with it. I think obviously a big part of my work this year will be the middle school project. I think one of my key focuses with the middle school project has been and will continue to be building collaboration between boards and community members across the town. I think it's critically important at this stage and throughout the project to ensure that school committee, select board, finance committee, and other town boards are working collaboratively, are working with the same information, and so that will continue to be a big push of mine in this coming school year. Obviously, taking care of the eligibility requirements and information sessions will be a part of what we'll need to continue to do. Second bullet relates to elementary schedules. I mentioned in my superintendent's report that we have a meeting coming up with the LEA to take a look at time on learning requirements and to identify ways that we can develop schedules that provide our educators with sufficient collaboration and prep time. And then finally, providing leadership to embed and strengthen the vision of the graduate. One of the things I've been thinking about lately is sort of how we can develop sort of summative assessments that are tied to the vision of the graduate at each level, at elementary, middle, and high. I think this committee has been interested in opportunities where we can elevate and showcase VOG projects, and so we'll continue to do that with you this year, and to take a hard look at our programmatic offerings to ensure that, in fact, the specific programs, the specific courses that children are involved with help us embed and strengthen the VOG. And then we had administered the Challenge Success Surveys back in the spring, and we started the year with our educators reviewing the results of that Challenge Success Survey, and our next step will be to engage the wider community and further engage staff in the results of the Challenge Success Survey. So those are some of the activities tied to that professional practice goal. And then relative to the student learning goal, again, it's the same goal, but different or modified action steps. Last year taught us that we really need to ensure that we have an aligned approach to social emotional learning and to supporting the mental health needs of students. And so I think it will be important for us to take a hard look at our SEL programs and to find a program that is MTSS aligned for potential adoption by the district. And so that is something that will frankly happen over a series of a couple of years, but it's work that we have begun in earnest. And then school-wide behavioral expectations. At the end of last year, we talked quite a bit about making sure that we were clear with families and with students about what was expected of students during the school day, and so locking in school-wide behavioral expectations so that kids have a clear idea of what is expected of them, I think is work that will be ongoing. And then leading the district in our ongoing systemic commitment to inclusive, equity-focused, identity-based educational practice. Mary mentioned earlier that the LPVC had hired a new coordinator of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I'm excited to begin working with that individual. He brings some really interesting experiences that will help us advance our work in this area. And I had, if you'll pardon me 1 second, some of the activities that we anticipate the coordinator can help us out with would be relative to policy review. We would hope that the coordinator could help us do some data dives around performance. Perhaps the coordinator could assist us with running focus groups to gather feedback on the experience of families and students of color, for example. Organizing speakers for parent engagement activities. We expect that the DEI coordinator will be available to administrators on a sort of consultancy basis. So if there's a problem of practice we're struggling with, we hope that this person will be available to us. And even our hiring practices, we think that as LPVC superintendents, we think that if we were more coordinated in our hiring practices, and if we had one person that could be involved with doing some outreach for us, that could help us widen the educator pipeline and help us attract educators of color and from a variety of backgrounds. So it's quite a bit of support and assistance we think that the DEI coordinator could help us with. Of course, this is work that we'll also be engaged in as administrators, and I'm eager to have the DEI coordinator meet with our DEI advisory council. I think, I've got some folks, some parents that are eager to get that work underway, and so we'll invite the DEI coordinator and have him work closely with our own advisory council. Additional educator PD, continuing to find ways to curate the curriculum to ensure that we are creating learning experiences for students that respect and reflect their own personal identities. I had not, just last week, it's happening with such frequency, and I'm so proud of the work that our educators are doing. Just last week, Kayla Werlin, who's the choral director at the high school, invited us to see Dagan was there, saw you in the back row, did a great job. But it was a gospel vocalist from the area who came in to work with our students and was working on arrangements that were not typical, and I think broadened the experience of the students and additionally the choral group that was assembled was very, very inclusive. It wasn't your typical choral class, if I recall. It was some clubs were involved.
It's what we call super chorus. That's Lancer singers, La Capella and Vox, and lyrics. So it's every level and every voice part. So it's everybody together.
It was powerful. It was the students' vocal talents were stretched, but more importantly, they were singing selections that were really reflective of the wider world that we're sending students off into, so it was fun to see. You may recall at the end of last year, we had put together a learning walk protocol with our administrative team. It was really well received by our administrators, so we want to get back at that, to have our administrators engaged in these learning walks that are focused very specifically on inclusive practice and equitable practice. So stay tuned for that. And then really deepening our commitment to UDL. We are trying to really, walk the walk. And as part of that, all educators in the district will be expected to tie their educator goals to universal design. And so that's a real sort of rubber hits the road way of ensuring that we are committing to UDL and recognizing that all our educators are in different places on this, and that some are more advanced in their understanding of UDL and others are at an earlier point in the journey. So those are some of the activities that will be tied to my annual plan. It's for your consideration. If you feel that it is in a good place, conceivably you could approve it tonight. If you would like to sort of spend some time considering it, we could bring it back at your next meeting, whatever is comfortable for you.
Let's start out with questions, comments on the plan. Kevin, and then Jim.
Yeah, Marty, thank you. I think this looks really good, and I think it is consistent with stuff we've been talking about. Just one question, especially related to what we just heard at the retreat from you and from the other members of the administrative team. It sounds like the most challenging thing right now is recruiting and hiring staff.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm just curious if that's worthy of putting into your goals. And I don't even know how,
Right.
like, you can't create more teachers, right?
Yeah.
But I just wonder if it might make sense to have that somewhere in here, because clearly that is a massive issue that we're dealing with. So I would love to hear your thoughts. on
Yeah,
that.
I'd be happy and eager to take a shot at that and bring you back some ideas. I think working collaboratively with other area districts and working with education departments at local colleges is probably our biggest leverage point right now. So I think my role in that is I'm in a position potentially to reach out to local deans, local higher ed admin to talk about some partnerships that might open up that pipeline. So if that is something that we feel like would fit with the needs of the district, I'd be happy to bring back some ideas on that and incorporate it into the plan.
Thank you.
I think one way, sorry.
No, go ahead.
One way to think about that might be to incorporate, if you can't change the recruitment and like the number of teachers who are out there, how do you incorporate something into your student learning goal that's like how we're going to basically make sure that we're maintaining the same level of education
Yeah.
despite those challenges. So
Right.
it's not like hanging it all on, increasing recruitment.
Right. That makes sense.
Excellent. Gianna?
Oh, thanks, Nicole. Superintendent, thanks for all this. Two quick questions.
Yeah.
So on component 2, number 1, lead LPS for the development of a more comprehensive.
Yeah.
Okay. So integrated and aligned approach to meeting the social, emotional, and mental health needs of students. Like when we, and just again as a counselor, when we talk about social, emotional, and mental health needs, we also throw in the word behavioral.
Mhm.
So, and I'm only requesting this or suggesting this because we've got in C, we're ensuring the review and revision of school-wide behavioral expectations. So I just want to make sure, if we're going to be setting, these, which obviously they're always set, but setting behavioral expectations and it's part of your goals here, then I would just ask, could you add social, emotional, behavioral, and mental health needs?
That makes sense. And I think some of the work that is underway with our entry into that MTSS Academy,
Yeah.
it fits with that. So, yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, we can bring that back and incorporate that into the goals, for sure.
And then I had another question to close that up.
Yeah, of course.
So Superintendent, so on that same page, down number 3,
Yeah.
lead LPS toward a deeper commitment. and then ensuring that UDL practice is linked to educator goal setting and evaluation. So, like, we have seeds, so we have, like, like, it's got all those little, like, your little rubrics and components and all that stuff. Because UDL is so specific, is there, like, a separate evaluation process that's, like, tiered? So you know how you said some educators are, like, right at the beginning stages, right? And then some get it, and then some, so, like, for this particular evaluation, or is it tied to the whole overall evaluation of educators, or is there like a tiered specific one for UDL?
It's a specific UDL goal that they're writing relative to where they are in the process. So they had a rubric that they all looked at and rated themselves as to where they were in designing universal lessons.
Got it.
And then based on where they felt they fell, wrote a goal for themselves. A
Okay, and then
professional practice goal.
that UDL piece is part of the larger
MTSS
evaluation.
process, but
Got
yes.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Any further commentary, questions? I'll just add on to what Kevin was saying about the idea of hiring, and while yes, it might be challenging to incorporate something super specific to hiring, and obviously we can't control the ability to find and locate more staff. I love what you were saying about collaboration with LPVEC, and I definitely think some action steps in there could be putting together that more formal collaboration, having those meetings, having those discussions about ways that collaboration could work, even moving forward, not just looking at this year and the immediate issues of staffing needs, but moving forward as several districts all together, building in some practices that allow for collaboration might prove useful for years to come. So that's excellent. Thank you, Kevin and Gianna and Julie.
I just have one more question, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Is there supposed to be a 1D, do you think, or is on component 2?
That is extraneous. So that
Okay.
needs, yeah, thank you. Yeah, appreciate that.
All right, thank you everyone for feedback. Yep.
Sorry, Nicole.
No, not at all.
It just occurred to me only because I was part of those discussions. Superintendent, on under component 1,
Yeah,
so number 2,
yeah.
lead the collaborative development of elementary schedules that address time on learning needs and requirements and provide educators with sufficient collaboration and preparation time. So the way I read, like, I don't want you to get trapped. It's really leading the collaborative effort to try and, like, there's no guarantee that those elementary schedules are gonna change or are gonna answer all those questions that were being asked. So I'm just thinking, for your sake, putting this as a goal, lead the collaborative development of elementary school. That development of elementary schedules says to me that you're guaranteeing that those schedules are going to be answering all those questions that were being asked. I mean, I might not be articulating this right, but I could be off. But I don't know if you can.
Yeah, I guess sometimes I think of goals as aspirational, that this is what we're aspiring to, that it's something that I will focus my work on and wanting to have the committee understand that is going to be a big focal point for us this year.
Okay.
But I appreciate what you're saying, that really it's leading the strategic effort to develop these schedules that address time on learning requirements, and yes.
Yeah.
If that would be helpful, I'm happy to,
I
yeah. Yeah,
I don't want you to get stuck somewhere.
yeah. Appreciate that.
All right, any other thoughts? So I'd like to recommend 2 things. The first recommendation that I would like to make, I know the evaluation committee has not yet had the opportunity to sit down with Superintendent O'Shea yet, and I would love to see if we could try to get that on the books for the next couple of weeks, so that they have an opportunity to review and make suggestions as a subcommittee, and bring that back to the whole committee. And then since we've had some feedback, I'd like to give us all a chance to kind of look over this, see if there's any other suggestions we have, and give you, Dr. O'Shea, some time to incorporate any changes or additions that you have, and maybe bring this back to us at our next meeting. Any thoughts or comments to add to that? Does that work for everyone?
That's good.
So
All right.
do we need that eval sub prior to the next meeting? Is that what you're looking for? Or do you feel like, are the changes, are the suggestions ones that I could bring back to the full committee, but you would like the evaluation sub to be prior to?
So I don't think we need it. I think we could have the meeting next time and get that done, but I would definitely, ideally, I would like to see that committee get a chance to sit down and have their conversations and give feedback before you
Okay.
finalize your plans.
Okay.
Ideally.
And maybe Superintendent, if it's not too much trouble, or, you know, again, I might be off, but, like, would you be able to tell us how different these action, like, how different are these components and action steps from your last year's plan?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
Just because
Yeah.
I'm thinking of what my brain is already thinking about the school committee goals in terms of, like, and I had this conversation with you, like, it takes a long time to do a lot of this stuff, so it might be interesting to see what maybe you achieved last year, and then, you know, like, are you continuing some stuff? Like, are these all brand new, or is this continuing?
Yep.
If that's not too much, like, you know, I don't want to add to your plate, but, like,
To discuss that with the evaluation subcommittee or at the next meeting?
oh, maybe, yeah. Yeah,
Is that-
Perfect.
okay. All right. Sure.
Okay.
thank you.
All right, I think it's time for our goals. Next up, school committee goals. So school committee members submitted individual suggestions for goals for this school year. Every year, we submit individual suggestions. Every year, Marty and Diane are kind enough to sit down and go through those. Diane's pointing at Marty. Coordinate and figure out what categories they fall into, and try to pull something together that is reflective of the goals that we all suggested, and give us some possible drafts. So we can find those in our packet. You can find a couple of things in our packet. First, you can find our full collection of all the individual goals that we each submitted, and then in here somewhere. There it is. Sorry, I was missing one. And then you can also find some draft suggested goals built off of those. So using the goals that we all submitted, they've tried to find some common themes and give us some suggested terminology for our consideration and possible approval. So let's dive in. It looks like we have a few topics that fall nicely under the things that are under the purview of school committee: curriculum, policy, community relations, and fiscal obligations. So shall we start with curriculum? All right. We have a curriculum chair, and our school committee goal says the school committee will work through the curriculum subcommittee to do the following. I'll just read aloud for the record what we have so far. Evaluate the New England School Development Council review of the LHS program of studies to ensure inclusiveness, equity, and access for all learners. Note that that is a goal that is in its second year. That's something, project that was begun last year and is continuing on into this year. 2, promote the vertical alignment of SEL programming across the district. 3, promote the alignment and implementation of the vision of the graduate. 4, support the creation and implementation of multi-tiered systems of support. 5, establish the use of the Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, framework to create learning opportunities that are aligned with standards-based outcomes while providing students flexible opportunities to engage with content and to show off what they know. 6, identify specific steps necessary to address academic impacts of the pandemic on LPS students. And 7, gather input from the community and relevant experts to identify steps the school committee can take to improve the well-being and mental health of students. Thoughts on the possible suggestions for curriculum goals? Maybe dive in with our.
Are we-
There.
Oh, sorry, Julie, go ahead.
Oh,
Yeah, Julie.
I have a thought that's
Yes.
only somewhat related.
Okay, go for it.
Because I was looking at the list of suggestions, and I really liked Zach's suggestion that we reduce or refine the number of goals overall. And I just think that might be helpful to guide as we think about this, because just like having a smaller number of goals helps us.
Absolutely.
That's all I have to say.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Zach?
Thank you, Julie. Yeah, I was just thinking about goal achievement and attainment. Let's just say that there's, I don't know, 3 or 4 key actions or drivers that we have to achieve that are associated with each one of these goals. That means that, let's see, 7, 4, 11, 16, 21 goals. Let's say there's 4 key drivers for each of them. That's 104 things that we probably need to be keeping track of week in and week out in order to realize the achievement of these goals. Just feels like a lot, which is what kind of led to some of that suggestion, and just wanting to be mindful if these are all very worthy goals, hugely important, but practically speaking, if there's a couple that we really want to make sure we drive home, we should try to potentially clarify and simplify the number of things that we're chasing after, because there's, again, probably 3 or 4 things that we absolutely have to do kind of week in and week out to achieve any one of these goals. So having 5 or 6 goals per area is a lot.
Gianna?
So with that, I was thinking 7 and 2 could probably be tied into 4, superintendent, because MTSS is the whole big umbrella. It's got like the PBIS, all of that mixed in, unless I'm misunderstanding MTSS, but I live it every day. So, I mean, I feel like well-being and mental health, and then we've got number 2 is social emotional, and then we've got multi-tiered systems of support, which includes all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it's also important to consider what things fall under our purview, which things we're supporting that other folks are really doing a lot of the heavy lifting on.
Yeah.
And some of these might fall into that second category as well. So that's something else to bear in mind as we look at these. Thoughts and comments on how to change? Mary?
Well, I'm
Chair
just
of our
thinking about
curriculum.
how these are written. I almost feel like the beginning should be the goal, and then the 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, or however many are the action steps, kind of like how Marty, I mean, that's how you write a SMART goal for educator evaluation. And so, if we think about the overarching theme of curriculum, I think that would be a place to start. And then under that, I mean, we have a lot of things that we're working on. We have the program of studies review, we have UDL, supporting work in the vision of the graduate. These are all things that are components of that larger curriculum goal. So basically what I'm saying is, what is our larger curriculum goal, and what is our measurable, actionable steps that we're taking to meet that overarching goal? I'm thinking about structure because I'm an English person. This is messy.
Love that. Yes. All right, so I think we're all on similar page that we would all like to see this shortened up a little bit, a little pithier, and a little bit more focused with some structure to it that speaks to the goal and then potential action steps. Does anyone have any possible specific suggestions for how we could word this? I think several of us seem to have begun our goals suggestions with the phrase, the school committee will work through the curriculum subcommittee to engage in fill in the blank. So I think we can probably start there and then move forward from there. Thoughts?
If you were to borrow from last year's goals, to build on what you said, Nicole, The curriculum goal is the school committee will work through the curriculum subcommittee to engage in curriculum analysis and review to support the district improvement plans focus on, and then it offered some focal areas. So.
Yes. So what would we want those focal areas to be? I think the LHS Program of Studies Equity Review is underway and probably continuing to be one. What other thoughts?
Well, the MTS, the vision of the graduate and the MTSS, just because I think those are
Okay, so
big things that we
promoting,
can support. Like you said, Nicole, we're not out in there doing the work of the vision of the grad and MTSS,
Yeah.
but if that's what everybody is doing, then we are supporting it.
okay, so instead of promote, maybe support the alignment and implementation of the vision of the graduate. One of the things that we've seen in your goals, and I know that we're going to hear from the high school about as well, is specific measurements for that vision of the graduate. I know that's something that many of our schools are working on, how to assess progress in the vision of the graduate. So maybe one of our things related, instead of last year we were talking about successful alignment and implementation of the vision of the graduate, we can be moving forward with the vision of the graduate as it moves forward into that work of assessment. Kevin?
I guess I'm curious, how much of this do we want to be aspirational, stuff that we want to do, versus stuff that we want to, like, is it working?
Yeah.
Right? And to me, like, I wonder if we could have one of the things be to, I don't like the word monitor, but to assess the stuff that we're doing the vision of the graduate, we're doing multi-tiered system, we're doing universal design for learning. Can we just have one goal to be like, how's it going? Right?
So
Maybe assessment is a
review the
better way to do it.
implementation.
But then, like, do we want to have an aspirational goal that is something we're not doing that we want to do? So maybe we can have two goals. Assess the stuff that we really care about, and then two, implement something that we don't have that we really do care about. Because if we're already doing it, I don't know if we need to say, like, keep doing it. I don't know, maybe we do. I'd like to hear from Marty, because I know that you try to align what you do with what we say.
Right.
But I feel like there's so many things that we're like, yeah, like what Marty said.
Yeah.
Or Marty saying, yeah, what they said.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Do you want to
Yeah,
take that?
I think we build on each other's work, right? I mean, I think it's in the same way that my annual plan is reflective of the goals of administrators and the goal of individual educators, so your annual plan, your goals are reflective of my annual plan. So hopefully all that's in sync. I think the idea of, fulfilling your responsibility to assess and monitor, that seems to make sense. The aspirational part of it could relate to the program of studies review. That's something that will be in front of the curriculum subcommittee. We'll bring back some recommendations associated with that program of study review. The other, so I've seen committees attack these. These are always difficult to get through because you're 7 individuals with 7 perspectives trying to present a single document. What I have seen work is you could have some general discussion and figure out what your intent is in each area, and then ask a committee member or two to sit down and refine and rewrite and bring back to the next meeting. It wouldn't be unusual to do it that way, or you could even have a subcommittee attack it. But I've seen it work really well when you authorize 1 or 2 members of the committee to go back and wordsmith it and craft it in a way that's reflective of your discussion. So there's a few different ways to attack it.
Yes, Julie, go for it.
Thanks, Janice, like flagging. I think that makes sense. I think it might be helpful to focus on more general discussion and then rate things, and come back. Just a couple thoughts related to what Kevin was saying. I like the idea of things that are tied to the things that the school committee does well, where we have like specific actions that are within our purview and also our capability as a group that meets, on a bi-weekly basis. And I think the things that make me a little bit more nervous, although this may just be because I don't sit on some of these subcommittees, are things where we're saying kind of like support, because it's not really clear like what it is that we do to support. And so maybe in some ways that's about being more precise about the language, or maybe it's about, what, like making sure that our goals are set to the things that we do best. But just I just offer that as kind of like a general thought on how we put these together, because I think, at the end of the year, it would be nice to be able to look back and identify things that we did that. Did we break it?
Nope.
No. Okay. Be able to identify things that we did that really are tied to and kind of achieve the goals.
Other thoughts? Gianna?
Yeah, and so, I'm just thinking about starting from what, Mary said and Kevin said and Julie said, having the goal, like you said, Mary, and then what's working and what's the aspirational, like Kevin said, and then Julie said tying the actions to the evidence of what's working and what's aspirational. And it's funny that you say the word support, Julie, because I remember we had this conversation last year and everybody was like, the word support is, there's just a lot of words here. And I don't think we have to get overcomplicated in, if we're just going to promote the vision of the graduate work. Like, y'all are doing the vision of the graduate work, and, we're promoting it, or we're seeing if we are, doing what we're saying we're doing in order to promote it. Just understand how MTSS is being implemented.
Yeah. I think a lot of times your support comes through the support of the budget recommendations that we bring forward, and a lot of the curriculum alignment, new programs, potentially a new SEL and behavioral program at the Tier 1 level. I feel like that's a lot of where you can really be supportive and show your support, right? And to support something, you want to know how it's working, if it's working, and how well it's working. So those make sense to me. And I think is the overarching goal for curriculum really curriculum alignment in all of these areas, or curriculum revision in all of these areas, or curriculum, like your rigorous kind of relevant curriculum in these areas that represent 21st century skills. Like if you could have some overarching statement, and then as related to the VOG, as related to, SEL, as related to, all of the things that you have listed here. I feel like UDL, MTSS. Well, maybe you could cut it back a little bit.
But what Mary was saying.
Yeah. I think to that end, with what you were saying with action steps and speaking to what Kevin had said about like one thing that we're going to keep doing and one thing that we're going to add on, really it does kind of come down to what you were saying there, Sue, where from what I'm seeing so far, something that starts, the committee will work through the curriculum subcommittee, and it gives direction to the curriculum subcommittee to review the implementation and growth of the VOG, the use of UDL, and the implementation of MTSS, which are all things that come up at curriculum sub, and the continued review of the LHS program of studies, because that's a review that's already in progress. And then a second action step is possibly promote the SEL alignment, because I think that's a goal that's kind of newly getting picked up post-COVID, trying to be begun again. If that makes sense.
Say that all again, Nicole.
Okay. Yes, no? Dan's like, I did not write that down.
What I did was I took the old, and I'm editing it.
Gotcha.
There we go.
That works. Yeah, Kevin.
Can we throw the math curriculum in there? It would seem weird to me if we had curriculum goals and did not acknowledge, like we just did brand new math curriculum.
Yeah. Okay, so then review the implementation and growth of the vision of the graduate, because there's new work happening there. the use of UDL,
I would say alignment of the VOG.
okay,
You know,
perfect.
K-12, pre-K 22.
So review the implementation, growth, and alignment of the VOG, K through 12, the use of UDL frameworks, the implementation of MTSS, and the continued review of the LHS Program of Studies. Oh, and the math curriculum, elementary math, and the elementary math curriculum. And then action step 2, promote SEL vertical alignment across the district, or vertical alignment of SEL programming across the district.
Support.
Yeah.
So we wanted
Didn't
to
we
get
say we
rid of
wanted to get
support.
rid of the word support?
We want to get
Is
rid of
promote
support.
better? Is it kind of the same? I'm not sure.
Well, I just, yeah.
We could workshop
just trying to
a
make
better
sure
word.
it's something you can really do.
Yeah.
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 Promoting it would be sending communications home and things like that.
Supporting it is more giving you
Supporting it is saying.
feedback on
here's
hearing
$2
from
million
you with what
to
you're
buy the
working
book.
on, and
Yes.
yes, here's money to make that magic happen.
Yeah.
Well, and it is the first bullet in the fiscal section.
Thank you.
Giving money to MTS, like.
May not
No.
last, John.
Do we like where that is at this point?
Too many bullets there.
There's a lot of bullets in
There are, yeah. We're gonna cull. It's great. Are we
And
all good
I-
with the curriculum piece? Any thoughts on further tightening up of that language and/or additions to that language? Were you able to?
I got
nab
most
the
of it.
things
I
of
will
what-
go
okay.
back and watch again.
Perfect.
I liked the phrase that someone used a few minutes ago, and maybe it was you, Marty, monitor progress on.
That is a good one,
Kevin.
yeah.
Because, I mean, we're not sitting down in a curriculum subcommittee and
Literally reviewing the whole
Literally.
thing.
Right.
going through
Yeah.
PD about UDL or recommending PD.
Yeah.
I mean, we want you to do that. It's in your goals. I know we're going to talk about that throughout the year. But I do want to hear about that in these meetings. I'm more interested in assessing if I think that it's going well and then monitoring that it's happening. So, because that's a lot of things. I mean, we have the program of studies, we have the vision of the graduate, multi-tiered system of support, universal design for learning. These are all big,
And math.
important things,
Mhm.
but we've agreed to them, we're on board with them. So now I'm interested to see what the district does with that. So maybe.
So assess and monitor progress instead of review.
Yeah, assess
Yeah.
and monitor progress
I like
on
that.
district initiatives, including the program
Like
of
that.
studies review,
Very good.
alignment of the vision of graduate, the implementation of multi-tiered systems of support, and the use of universal design for learning.
Okay, so assess and monitor progress on district initiatives such as, and then
Or I
the
would say
topics that we
including,
discussed.
because these are the, do you think including? I guess I guess we're not limited to.
Yeah.
Including but not limited
You're
to.
just adding words back in there.
Yes, we were good, I
I
think.
think such as is good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
such as, yeah. All right, wonderful. Okay.
Throw a bunch of English words in.
We are ready to move on to policy? Yes, okay. Just for folks at home, I realize we all have this in front of us, but I'll just read it aloud what is here as a suggested draft to start, and then we'll tighten this up too. So under policy right now, we have the school committee will work through the policy subcommittee to inventory, analyze, and revise existing policies and potentially draft new district policy to ensure that policy language and intent, 1, is aligned with MASC recommendations and statutory and regulatory requirements, 2, supports the successful implementation of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, 3, supports the district's commitment to the health, safety, and wellness of each member of the learning community, and 4, supports the successful implementation of curriculum, instruction, and assessment priorities articulated in the district improvement plan. All right, take it away, folks. Who would like to jump in first?
I have a comment.
Yes, Julie?
I think these are fine.
Yeah, this one actually feels
We
tighter
spent a
already.
lot of time on this last year, like.
Yeah, this one feels pretty good to me as well. Any other thoughts? Okay. This one we like as is.
And Nicole,
Yes.
if you can do it, or superintendent, like I know that I can't articulate, but I think it's important for people who are watching and, the community, if they ever go back and look at the minutes or anything, but we had to, so curriculum, policy, community relations, and fiscal are like written into what a school committee has to do.
Yes.
Like, we didn't just pull these categories out of thin air and be like, oh, this is what we, so I just think it's important that we spent a lot of time on, these goals last year, but the curriculum, the categories themselves were something that we were, Diane, is that, like, I remember we were like looking at the categories that the school committee, people tell us that we need to.
Yeah, what you have oversight over.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I knew I wasn't gonna.
Things that are
You should've
within our
jumped in,
purview.
Nicole, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, so I just think that's important.
Perfect. All right, are we all good with policy as is then? Yay. All right, community relations, as reads right now. The school committee will engage and work collaboratively with community stakeholders. 1, by providing detailed and timely information on the middle school project with attention to community forums, the fall town meeting, and a feasibility study. 2, by implementing the recommendations from the equity audit conducted by the Center for Leadership and Educational Equity. 3, by engaging the LPVEC Coordinator of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging to coordinate and facilitate the work of the DEIB Advisory Council. 4, by creating opportunities to listen to students, teachers, and community members on DEI-related matters. And 5, by welcoming students and educators from the district to showcase student work that represents the vision of the graduate, civic involvement projects, and other district initiatives and goals. I feel like we might have a little space here to smoosh a few of these together. Does anyone have any thoughts on that? Mary, kick us off.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Oh, and then Julie, sorry. My blind spot.
So the
apparently.
showcase, this was one that I was looking, when I was submitting my own ideas for this year, I was looking back because I think that's been an incredibly valuable part of our current meetings, but I now feel like it's practice. Like, I don't know that we need to, or can we just keep doing this because it's been going well? We did it for a year. Like, I almost feel like, check, we are doing that. So I don't know if it needs to be articulated in our goals because it's something that's happening and will hopefully continue to happen unless maybe Mary
Yeah,
have feedback.
It doesn't have to be written as a goal for it to continue.
Good deal.
So, yes. Good.
Then we will strike, since we know that we would all like to see that happening as is.
So I totally get
Oh.
it, Mary,
Sorry.
but I'm also
Coming
like,
back to your comments.
it is such a successful thing. Like, I feel like if people who don't watch the meetings, I get it. I just really like people to know.
Wondering if it
that
might
we're
fall
doing
off
it.
if it's not something that's included in
No,
here
I-
and/or that it might
No, I
not
trust.
be known.
I trust that
we
we'll
want
keep
it to
doing it
happen.
because it's so much fun.
It really is.
I just kind of
For
like.
us.
I like that it's in.
Yeah.
Like, I like that people can see that that's because it's such a special thing. I don't know. I
To
could
show
not-
that it's a priority.
I do. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But I get you, Mary.
Julie?
I had 2 questions. My first question was just on number 1. Are all of those things, is it still our job to do this if there's a middle school building committee? I was just wondering whether any of that falls within like that committee's purview.
Yes, I would say that a lot of that work will fall to the building committee or to the administrative team, but certainly devoting part of your meeting time to using your meeting time to provide detailed and timely information is something that could be done as well. But I think 1 is an example of something that will have to happen and will happen with the involvement of the school building committee and the administrative team, and so.
Kevin?
Following up on that, I think 1 is too detailed. I think we should have something more general about, like, you can, just by providing detailed and timely information on the middle school project, done. Get rid of the rest of it.
Okay.
I agree. I think 5 should go, like, we're doing that. If people watch the meetings, they see that. I think that should go. I think 3 and 4 are similar, that they should be combined, and that would get us down to 3 goals on community relations. And that would be great.
Yeah.
I think 2, 3, and 4 could be, 2, 3, and 4 could be.
There we go, and then we get to 2 goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Piggybacking on both of those comments, I feel like 3 and 4 feel like sub-points to 2.
Two. Yeah.
Right, so implementing the recommendations of CLE through engaging the LPVEC coordinator and creating opportunities for students and parents to chime
Yeah.
in.
Agreed. Julie?
I just had a question about 2, and maybe Zach, you're the best person to answer it, but what are the recommendations things that we can definitely implement? Like, it's all stuff that, I can't remember what they were off the top of my head.
I like continuing to implement. Because
Yeah,
in progress.
I feel like it's a process.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
Because, like,
there's
we've
structural
started.
things that we can like say we've done and put in place,
Right.
but it's going to take years to realize the benefit of some of those recommendations.
Okay, so it's like continuing to.
Yeah.
And Superintendent, wouldn't that really be, like, the big thing that came out of CLE was the creation of the DEI task force, or I can't even remember what it's called, but I feel like, wouldn't the DEI task force now be, like, continue the work of the DEI task force, which oversees all this other stuff?
I'm not sure, I think when I think about the CLE report and what came out of that, recommendations for professional development for teachers, recommendations around the curation of the curriculum, those are things that are really outside the purview of the DEI Advisory Council. The DEI Advisory Council I see as a way to gather input from community stakeholders. They
Okay.
wouldn't necessarily be directing this work, because ultimately that's our responsibility.
Okay.
But we would use the DEI Advisory Council as a sounding board, as a place to gather perspectives, as a place to ensure that we are meeting the community's expectations.
Okay, so they're not, that's not the body that, okay,
Right.
thank you.
All right, I think we have some ideas on culling that community relations one down to some points. I agree that 2, 3, and 4 can kind of be succinctly turned into one. And that brings us to fiscal. So currently, the fiscal draft reads, in collaboration with town officials, committees, and legislative delegates, the school committee will work through the finance subcommittee to advocate for fiscally responsible district funding with a focus on well-resourced schools that support, 1, the implementation of multi-tiered systems of support, 2, health and safety of each member of the learning community, 3, efforts to attract, hire, and retain outstanding staff and teachers, 4, outcomes related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and 5, efforts to obtain funding for the Massachusetts School Building Authority for the middle school project. I feel like that was in a pretty good place, but thoughts and comments there? Oops, I lost Jamie. Any suggestions for tightening up, or do we feel like that one's already in a pretty good spot? Okay. Last comments and questions related to goals. I'm going to recommend that since we've made some suggestions and possible adjustments, that maybe we can review this at our next meeting. We'll have a revised draft in our packet, have some time to look that over, see if we have further thoughts, and then bring it back to a vote at our next meeting. Does that work for everyone? Yes, Jana?
Nicole, sorry.
Nope, yeah.
Under community relations, I know y'all wanted to, number 5 got axed, but in thinking more about it, could we actually do something along the lines of pushing people to the LPS Facebook page, something along the lines of pushing people to places where they'll actually see stuff like
Showcasing of
this,
student work.
right? Like, and all the other stuff that, all the other people that come here and, and because, like, I love the Facebook page. We've always talked about kind of amping up the LPS website to have, like, the videos, like those videos that, that the students did and the schools did. These are incredible things, and I don't think a lot of people are taking the opportunity to so if we're not going to talk about that we're doing that work, I think we should tell people how they can see that work.
Okay.
We
I
have a
would-
Facebook page, we have a website.
I would
We have
say
the news and notes.
Since we're going to bring this back in 2 more weeks, that if anybody has any other thoughts or any suggestions on how to reword or add in something, that's an excellent suggestion. Send to Diane, and we can look at it again when we've got a second version of the draft in front of us. Julie?
I have just one last thing.
Yep.
When does this live on the website? Our goals. Where do they
Draft, our
live?
goals do live on the website, yes, not the draft.
When we do that, can we try to? I think about, and I think some of Gianna's thoughts like brought this up. Like it's some of the pieces are a little bit hard for people to understand who don't sit in this room with us. So could we put links to wherever there are things that we can link to? So
Yeah,
that, like for
that's a great
Vision of the
idea.
Graduate or whatever.
Link right over to that.
Yeah.
Great idea. Definitely. All right, last thoughts or comments before we move on? All right, we have a couple of building use requests. There are 3 in front of us. Tom, would you like to speak to those before we
Sure.
vote on them?
Good evening, and tonight's request are a little more time sensitive, so the entities have an opportunity to get word out regarding their events. So the first is the Hampden County Beekeepers Association has requested use of the high school auditorium for Bee School. The dates are January 21st, February 18th, and March 25th. They are Saturdays from 7:30 to 4 p.m. Pre-COVID, they were using the facilities at the high school for meetings. So they have been here and using our high school auditorium prior. The second request is from the Blueberry Hill School PTO for use of access to Blueberry Hill for a trunk or treat, which is on October 28th. And the rain date, I believe, is on October 29th. And the third request is from the Center School PTO for the Halloween Hustle, which is on October 29th, and they are requesting access to the center gym for race registration. So all 3 requests are uses that have been approved in prior years by the committee.
Wonderful. Good to see events up and running again. We can approve these all as one, correct? Motion?
Sure.
Wait, I have one. All right, yes, questions, Gianna?
And Tom, and thank you for this, Tom. I hear you that they were done before. And this is probably a really silly question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Like in my school, I'm just thinking we have like people with life-threatening allergies to bee. Like, is there any like?
I don't
like,
believe there
stuff
are
from
live bees
that, like,
being brought in.
Oh,
I believe it's a training in terms of hive keeping and the like. It's my
seriously, there's
understanding.
no live bees?
Not that I'm aware of.
It's a valid question.
I do not think that's a dumb question. I was
No.
also picturing
Yeah,
actual
no, I
bees
don't-
attending,
I don't
so-
But I
believe
didn't know if they, like,
which sounded really cool
You know, like if they
also.
have dander, you know, like, and if it's there, okay.
I don't know if they have
I don't know, like, I'm not allergic, but I
We'll
don't.
follow up and confirm that is the case, but I don't believe so.
I mean, like you said, they've already, it's just, I was like I was thinking, you know, people at my school couldn't probably go into the school afterwards if the bee dander.
They have
I don't even know
live
if
bees.
bees have dander, but.
They have live bees at the Big E. Go to the Massachusetts building.
Yeah,
True.
yeah.
Well, I, that's not bringing it
That's
to
why
my
they're
school.
requesting,
I
they're
don't
trying to
know.
advertise at
Yeah.
the Big E.
Sort of
so.
fantastic.
Oh, they are?
I'm just thinking of
Geez,
people who
they're
might be going into the building afterwards and be allergic to the bee dander.
Or having a leftover there.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, further questions or comments and/or motions?
Just
Zach.
one quick comment.
Yep.
If you have the opportunity to mark your calendar for the Blueberry Hill October 28th event, the Trunk or Treat, having attended last year and watching families decorate their spooky trunks and having kiddos come out to just pop parking spot to Trunk or Treat is a wonderful community event, and I highly recommend putting it on your calendar.
That's super fun. All right.
I hope we approve it.
All right, possible
going.
motions, here we go, folks.
I move the school committee approve the building use request as noted. Hampton County Beekeepers Association for use of Long Meadow High School on January 21st, February 18th, and March 25th, 2023. Blueberry Hills School PTO for use of Blueberry Hills parking lot on October 28th, 2022. And the Center School PTO for use of the Center School Gymnasium on October 29th, 2022.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, any further discussion? We will move to a roll call vote. Zach?
Yes.
Gianna?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Is Jamie back? No? And yes for me as well. There is no executive session, which means we have one final motion in front of us.
Move the school committee adjourn the September 27th, 2022 school committee meeting.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Wow, nobody wants to go. All right. There we go. Second from Jenna. Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, we'll move to a roll call vote. Zach?
Yes.
Gianna?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
And yes for me as well. Thank you very much. Have a lovely evening.